Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another Final Fantasy XIV video. Today I want to go through the Shadowbringers teaser trailer and look at certain frames within the video itself, as I feel we can discuss certain points and really try to get as much from this as possible. Like many people, digging around and theory crafting what we can see here will give us a pretty good idea, or at least a guess as to what to expect come summer next year with 5.0's launch. And if you don't want potential spoilers or any sort of theory crafting towards this, then I simply would advise you not to watch this video. The trailer itself will be linked in the description of this video, and whilst my analysis isn't going to be perfect in any particular way, perhaps you can help me. If you identify anything that I miss, feel free to throw me a comment below and give me some of your own speculation. The teaser trailer itself runs in at 3 minutes 19 seconds, so there's actually plenty of points to cover. So to begin, the trailer starts with this scene panning around an open, lifeless area filled with light emanating from the clouds above, and only the occasional piece of scenery is seen in this form of a tree with blossom and crystals. We see the Warrior of Light stagger through this barren landscape. A first-person view shows that we are low on strength as the camera shakes, as our feet stumble from the battles before this scene. Wielding a bow, we finally see the character from a bottom angle, looking upwards as he staggers into view. Is this actually somewhere new, or is this the aftermath of an entire fight up until this point? A potential lifeless husk of a world. Whilst no physical signs of stress are seen to be present on the Warrior of Light himself, you can tell by the expressions on his face that the toll of the entire game timeline experience is having a serious negative impact on his mental well-being. We get sudden flashbacks here of Dalamud, Bahamut unveiled, the fires that scorch the world. The Warrior of Light then clutches his head in pain. More flashbacks, then assault, with images of Bahamut again, more strife, pain and loss, and even shots of Nidhogg from Heavensward, putting the Dragoon armour on to combat the plague of dragons assaulting Ishgard, and even scenes from Stormblood cutscenes in the trailer, when he changed to a samurai for that expansion. We also see here scenes of the first ever trailer for Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, where the Warrior of Light was much younger, selecting to go on that fateful adventure in the quicksand back in Uldar, where, if you remember, he had an out-of-body experience showing the fight between the dragons and the Garlean Empire, which, as we know, ended with Midgard Summer's fall in Mor Dhona. It's clear that all of these events have been incredibly traumatic on your character, and now poised with even more disaster on the horizon, this scene is really showing his breaking point. After this fade to the Square Enix logo for the trailer, we fade back into this battle scene, which looks pretty much like the newly announced at FanFest Gimlight Dungeon, set to feature in patch 4.5 as the next part of the main scenario storyline. We hear part of the Answers theme, or what appears to be a choir singing like it, as the camera pans across this fiery warfront. Banners of 6 grand companies lie their bodies on one side of the battlefield, with more bodies and destroyed Magitech technology lining the area around. Important to note is that this puts the time frame to the present, as the Alamigo flag in particular is with the others, and a Garlean flag is on the other side of the battlefield. Looking very much like a battle area from the Cartano Flats, there are no other people present in this lifeless aftermath of what appears to have been a costly and very bloody battle. We then see the samurai blade of the Warrior of Light exit the body of a fallen Garlean soldier, as the camera now pans in slow motion as his body falls to the ground. The trailer is then overdubbed with what appears to be the Warrior of Light. How many years have come and gone since that day, he says. We then see the only other Garlean to seemingly be alive to be Xenos Yegalvis, who turns around, his helmet broken, revealing part of his face, his eyes narrow, and then he locks on sight to the Warrior of Light, whom looks back and downwards as the voiceover continues. How many years have I waited? They both in this scene prepare to clash one last time, readying their swords and stance to charge. The voiceover continues for this moment, and if you listen carefully, which I'll play for you here, it actually sounds like they've cut off the dialogue. It could be just me, or does he say, for this moment to yield?
Have I waited for this moment?
sort of trails off when he says to yield, but I'm pretty sure he says that. It's very quiet, but I'll try and boost that up in post so you can hear it. The camera then shifts to and from the two aggressors preparing to charge, as the voiceover continues, "For the one who stood alone against the storm." The wind howls as no other sound is present, and then a battle standard falls into a puddle nearby on fire. At the exact moment the flag falls, the two charge each other and make contact, as they very traditionally in anime stand past each other with their backs turned, waiting to see who won the clash. The clouds then instantly move as they strike above them, like a change in the balance of the entire battlefield, as we now see the moon above. The symbology of the moon in Final Fantasy XIV is supposedly where Hydaelyn imprisoned Zodiac. If you read the lore book Encyclopedia Eorzea, there's a section on that. You then see the aftermath of this clash with a large explosion, almost with the power of what appears to be a nuclear blast. The rock and water on the battlefield is blown away with the sheer power of this explosion, and then we get a close-up of the Warrior of Light's eyes, shining blue as the voiceover continues. "For the one they called," it fades to black, "the Warrior of Light." A few seconds later it fades from darkness into light, and then to the face of the aimless Warrior of Light we saw before in this barren landscape, still clutching his head in pain. It's at this point we hear the disturbing voice of a new character in a very alien tongue, so much so they've actually given us subtitles to understand it. "Weary wanderer," it says as the camera zooms out, as the Warrior of Light can hear this too. The camera pans down as he notices what we notice, a strange third creature talking back to him, sort of like a gremlin. It then speaks again. "No fight left to fight." It laughs as it continues to speak. "No life left to live." To which the Warrior of Light grits his teeth, clearly in opposition of this statement and resisting its taunt. The camera then pans around, this time letting us see the light-filled skies as feathers seem to be falling down around him. "Ho, it comes," says the fiend, "the end. Your end." We then see an angelic silhouette in the light-filled sky as the Warrior of Light slowly moves around to look up too. This shot really shows this area off quite well with this sort of lifeless area and the sheer size of this figure that doesn't immediately strike, as if waiting for something. A close-up that zooms out of the angel creature shows a feminine face with long white hair and white complexion, who swings back a giant sword as the camera pans away from the figure, along with a projectile of light from the blade, aimed towards the Warrior of Light below. Reacting quickly, he absorbs the brunt of this attack as he's blown backwards and upside down, potentially using the Bard ability repelling shot. The bow flies from his hands along with the quiver of arrows as we get a close-up of his face, before the noise of a job change is then heard as he glows blue, transitioning into another role. Plunging his axe into the ground to prevent him from being blown back any further, he now appears to be the warrior job. "Fool, who are you?" "No one, nothing," continues the gremlin's speech. Now standing upright and charging forward, the Warrior of Light pants in desperation as he attempts to attack the enemy before him. Building up his courage by screaming, we then flash to another completely different scene, this time a blue light-filled area with two people running up a set of stairs. Chains and a cage can be seen clearly behind them as they near the exit of whatever this room is. We then see a gunblade on the back of one character and the other is shrouded completely and looks smaller and certainly more feminine than the male character. The two run into the candle-lit room to find the ceiling crumbling above, as a giant winged white creature jumps down in their path. We get a close-up of the creature. It shares the golden crown to that of the angel we saw earlier, and has the same heavenly glow above it. It's a winged lion that roars at the two characters. We then see in this shot that the shrouded character seems to be a girl and has a pretty familiar appearance, and the other character is none other than Thancred, who says, "This town certainly has changed, and not at all for the better." He reaches to his back for the gunblade on it as it fades to white. We then shift back to the scene with the angelic creature and the Warrior of Light swinging his axe, whom appears to shatter his axe on the enemy's shield and is bashed backwards by it. He then job changes to Dragoon and leaps forward with a lance in hand, only for the angel to dodge the attack completely and smash the lance into pieces with a sword blow. As the angel pursues, the warrior of light falls below, and a voice speaks, "This tragedy, greater than the seventh umbral calamity." As the warrior of light reaches the floor, he job changes into monk. As monk, he leaps upwards to attempt to punch the creature head on, only once again to be deflected by its sword a great distance across the screen. As it looks on, the warrior of light shifts job once again, this time to samurai. Attempting to strike out with a slash, his attacks have no effect, as the foot of the giant being slams down hard onto the back of the warrior of light. The voiceover then says, "If history must be unwritten, let it be unwritten." As the being confirms its hold on him with her foot, stamping down hard and preparing its giant sword to go in for the kill, it plunges the sword down and into the warrior of light, as purple energy releases from below and blasts upwards, filling the entire screen. As the angel looks on, the sword was deflected by that of the warrior of light's Dark Knight greatsword. Glowing with dark energy, the area explodes, sending the angel backwards with dark energy everywhere. Standing now fully upright with the greatsword, the warrior of light is no longer the warrior of light. As the voiceover states, "Become what you must. Become the warrior of darkness." We then get an awesome pan around the character and a facial shot of him looking badass with a greatsword upon his shoulders, glowing with dark energy. And finally, the Shadowbringers logo appears, with the Warrior of Darkness and his blade as the background image. So then, whilst we picked up on many of the elements from the trailer, what can we learn from this? So my short thoughts on this are that we as the Warrior of Light have pushed the balance too greatly in Hydaelyn's favour. We are seen in past tense slaying Xenos, which results in the clouds lifting and the moon to be visible. We see this as a painful waking flashback, as just another painful memory for the character stood in the lifeless zone. As it's told by a gremlin, who is likely to be the embodiment of Zodiac, it tells him he has no life to live and no fights left to fight. I strongly believe that Hydaelyn is the angel being, finally disposing of the tool she used to finally win over the balance between light and dark on this world. We heard in the past in the Warrior of Darkness story arc how their world ended due to this imbalance. Well, this is likely the same eventuality. The shrouded figure taken from a chained and caged underground area is very likely Minfilia. Thancred has seemingly gone to the depths of everything to rescue her, and I believe we were all used as tools to banish darkness so that Hydaelyn effectively could do anything it wanted to. The ending of this, however, seems to be that we mustn't completely lose hope, as even though everything failed, all the jobs he changed to had no effect. Giving himself to darkness was the only counter he had left to repel the light. And so I strongly think that the Warrior of Darkness story in Shadowbringers will not be us time-travelling like some seem to believe, but to fight against all of the odds against Hydaelyn's wishes and various minions, perhaps in the attempt to restore balance. And what would even that balance now we have slain so many darkness-related enemies? Well, I think we must free Zodiac from his moon prison, but as to where that could go from there, my theories are completely open. It is clear, however, to me they seem to be doing the whole "the light wasn't always the right thing to do" arc, and honestly you could learn a lot from watching Star Wars if you think about it. It sounds awful to compare these, but if you see the Warrior of Light as Anakin Skywalker, posed to be the greatest Jedi, the most powerful, who can bring balance to the Force in that franchise, only to be too successful and go too far, only to fall to darkness, perhaps this then will be the redemption story that franchise never got to. Let me know if you think I'm completely crazy with my theories, and if you have any different interpretations of the events we've seen in the trailer. And I'll see you all next time.